welcome everybody. Those of you that are not on, we just finished an event a couple weeks ago. We had about 4,000 people at the event. We did a advanced training and really talked about a 90-day game plan. So I'm not sure who was, hi Tamara. So who was actually on that, but if you were not on there, make sure you get a hold of the 90-day game plan that we did. There were some of us that are members of the Eric Worre Mastermind Group. And we talked about, it's so interesting, and Leanne, I'm sure you can relate to this, that our job is really to be a great tour guide. I live in Las Vegas, you live in Dallas. We talk all the time about, people come and visit, but, the job is to just give them an extraordinary experience. So 98% of the people are going to be tourists, meaning they're going to love the products. They're going to love the events. They're going to come and be a part of the community. And about 98% of the people, like I said, are like that. And only about 2% of the people say, hey, I want to come and I want to be, really go for it and really be a tour guide in the city and tell everybody about the great experience. So those of you, first of all, I want to congratulate all of you that are on tonight, because that means you are a tour guide. You want to find out what can you do to create the most extraordinary experience for people. So I love this lady and her husband. I got to talk about, you're just such a beautiful dynamic duo together. So Glenn and Leanne Harris, they are from Denton, Texas. We're going to speak with Leanne tonight. And she is married to her college sweetheart. That is so cool. 40 years together. They've raised 3 wonderful children, and she is a proud Mimi. I guess that means that you're a grandma. I'm assuming that Mimi is your grandma word.
I'm a grandma.
Is that it?
About one and a half. 1.5.
Oh my.
1.11.
Very excited about that. She's worked in the healthcare world for over 30 years. She retired early from North Texas Hospital in Denton as an operating room radiology nuclear medicine technologist. Say that 10 times. And so she is pursuing her passion in inspiring healthy living around the world. And she enjoys outdoor activities, except here in Vegas when it's 119 degrees. And yoga and gardening and reading and educating and travel. She's getting back on the road to go work with her teams, and she loves spending time with her family, and also because of her amazing health transformation, which I can't wait to hear about, and her experience in the medical field. She decided to study plant-based nutrition at Clayton College of Natural Health and became a plant-based certified nutritionist. She's currently studying homeopathy. Wow, there's a lot to learn from you. She started her journey. Wow, I didn't know that. You started in 2007, so you started when I started. That's crazy. And is living her dreams. And she, as a national marketing director in 4.5 years, while she was working full-time, parenting and going to school. And she's active in her local church, and she's been nominated for 3 Elton Awards, and she won the 2013 Elton Award for the 24 Club of the Year. And she and her team recently won the 39 Club Elton, and said their team is currently 50 Club, which I love talking about the clubs. So she's also trained from the main stage, and I just really love who she is and what she stands for. So Leanne, thank you so much for joining us this evening. You are, it's crazy. So you started a conference. Did you go to your first conference in October in Memphis?
My first conference was Phoenix of 2008.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit. I'm really excited to hear a little bit about your journey. And I love that you're, I think so many people right now in the medical industry are really looking and reevaluating where they're at and what they're doing. I know we have a couple of health professionals. Actually, pretty much my people that are on I have one that's a dentist, another person that's been in the healthcare and a registered nurse. I see lots of people that have been in the healthcare industry. So could you share a little bit about your backstory? And
I want Glenn to say hello, because he's the wind beneath my wings, and he is on his way to work a deep night shift tonight. So I don't have to do that anymore. So honey, say hi before you have to run out.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad that you're on. You're going to be so blessed tonight, because Leanne is just amazing at what she does with this business. And just to see the change of her heart over the last, since 2007, however long that is amazing. And she just, this is her passion. And when you live in your passion, you don't ever really work. So
Yeah, I love it.
I'm so
Thanks,
glad
Nate.
you guys are on.
So, yeah, we got married young and we struggled. We couldn't pay our bills. We had a daughter with Down syndrome and lots of therapy, lots of surgery, lots of stress. Glenn worked one shift, I worked the other. We traded kids in the parking lot. He worked 2 jobs for 20 years. That means we saw him about 4 days a month for 20 years. So our marriage stayed together, but it wasn't easy. It was very difficult. I hear about Juice Plus when I'm 40 years old from a nurse at work. And, I'd been toying around with 250 pounds and an eating disorder. Always Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Nutrisystem, Fin, you name it, I was doing it. But a nurse got my attention when she started talking about the picky eaters. And Angela had had 10 surgeries by the time she was 10. Always sitting on her, pouring antibiotics down her. John always had strep throat. So, we thought that was normal, Lauren, because we worked in the sick care industry. So we start Juice Plus because of Dr. Du Bois' CD. And Glenn took it because I put it in front of him and I made the kids take it. And really, I just did the one simple change. And Glenn and the kids made no dietary changes whatsoever. Glenn's psoriasis and eczema totally gone. Kids off the antibiotics. I lost 80 pounds. Migraines gone. Just amazing things. And at that point, I decided to go back and do a master's in nutrition because I'm working in the operating room on all these sick people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, this is preventable and reversible. Let's tell people about this, Well, the doctors didn't think that was a very good idea. And the medical staff didn't think that was a very good idea. They threatened to walk me to my car if I spoke about anything other than the procedure I was doing on the patient. So morally and ethically, I just didn't want to do what I was doing anymore. Something that kind of put the seal on that was when I was 45, I'd been on Juice Plus 5 years as a customer. We were actually family plan members, just to get the discount because the kids fell off the health study and we just wanted to be able to afford it for everybody. But I had no intention of building a business, none, zero. And my boss said, come in for your yearly evaluation. And actually Glenn works where I worked, same boss, so funny. And she said, the doctors love you. You're amazing. Here's your 3% raise. And Glenn hadn't had a raise in forever. And cost of living went up 7%. And my raise was 3%. That meant I went backwards 4%. So we just decided, what, this isn't working. And I got the opportunity to hear Ron Blue speak. And he was, if anybody knows Dave Ramsey, he was the financial guru of the day. And he put a stamp of approval all over this business. I just so respected him. And I just looked at Glenn that day and I just said, I think this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Now, at that point, I was a virtual franchisee and I was making less than 100 a month. And I'd gone the slow way, not wanting to build a business, just trying to offset my cost. Are you going somewhere, Lauren? This is how you do business, right?
Exactly. I apologize.
It's
I'm on. Yeah, I'm in the.
Okay, so
I'm on though. I'm on.
Amazing. I just made a decision to build a business that day. So I was 45, October 2007, heard Ron Blue speak, and then everything got set in action and motion. And I started seeking counseling from the people that were ahead of me, Catherine Lee, Carrie Radnoff, Susie Cruzy, on up the line, and did the work and worked really hard for 5 years. And our team got to NMD in about 4.5 years. So I walked away from a job, and it was a 36-year career, and more than, replaced my income. and I had the time freedom and the flexibility. So about 2 months later, the hospital shut down and 250 employees didn't have their job. It was closed for a year, and then Baylor came in and opened it, and that's where Glenn is now. And now he's down to 3 days a week. And we've gotten to play a lot and travel a lot. I'm so opposite of you. I, worked and mommied. That's all I did. I never got on an airplane. I never went anywhere. And when we came into this business, I never intended to speak in front of people, but because God has just blessed us, and pardon me, I have a message to tell. I've gone to 23 states. So I'm gonna let you talk. Come here.
I'll say one of the things too.
I'll
is
take a bit.
changes.
I was going to ask if you would share a little bit. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
She replaced her income that she had worked in radiology for, like she said, she replaced that in 5 years with Juice Plus. And now she makes more money than I do, and I'm still working.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Doesn't rub it in as much as I would if the roles were.
Well,
And Glenn, what do you
yeah.
do? What do you do at the hospital, Glenn? What do you do at the hospital? What do you see? You work in radiology, and what are you seeing right now? Because I think that sometimes we just see our lives through our own lens and not understand what other people are going through. So, what have you seen? What's been the shift? Do you see more people really looking for other ways to have that freedom? What are you seeing for your, what you see? I'd love for people to hear.
Yeah, the patients are coming in, they're getting sicker and sicker and younger. And the sad part is that they don't realize that it's within their control. They don't realize that their nutrition, their lifestyle is going to determine their health when they get, in their 60s or whatever. So it's real important that people, they don't understand the difference between prevention and diagnosis is one thing, detection. And then the other thing, as far as the employees, interestingly enough, the people, I think in order to work in the medical field, it has to be a calling. And so for the most part, they're happy about it. They all complain, but a lot of us just like to complain. So I kind of think that's where they're at in that contemplation stage. All right, Leanne, you're ready to go. So I'm going to turn it back to you.
Well, and one of the things I think too, and I didn't plan on sharing this, but Glenn got really, really sick with COVID. And he was exposed with the patient in the emergency room, mask down in the face. So he got a big viral load right in his face. And he brought it home and shared it with all of us. But, he didn't have to worry that I would have an income and have a community and people to support us when he was there sick and unable to do anything. That has been the biggest blessing. And the fact that there is not a glass ceiling, we have the same degree and he always made more than me. And I'm like, that is just so, just so not right, but, So anyhow, I, have been gone from the hospital 9 years and I've got an amazing team. I'm just, loving what I'm doing. We'll bring him home pretty soon, but 3 days a week isn't too bad. Kind of keeps your foot in, what's actually happened in medicine.
So Leanne, what was when you decided to go, you said 4 years you were just on the product and just, getting what was the shift for you to say, I'm all in? And what did you do? Was it that what was your plan to move forward?
Well, the shift for me was realizing we'd done everything right, Lauren. We went to school, we got good jobs, we worked ourselves to death, and we weren't getting ahead. And I knew if I just kept doing what I was doing, I would get what I had. Pardon me. So when I started, the advice given to me was to begin with the end in mind. Look at where you want to be in 5 years and work backwards. So I did, and I was a really good student. When I showed up, I studied, I listened. I didn't always succeed. I learned everything the hard way. My upline support team was in another state, so I never saw a wellness presentation. I just had to learn the hard way. But I just refused to quit. because, you know, I wanted to be 100 Club NMD. That's all I cared about, because I wanted to give away half and to be, you know, able to bless other people, because we've never been able to do that. So I had a lot of great mentors pouring into me. So if you can imagine, on qualifiers day, I'm in the operating room, and I think one of my upline NMDs is gone, Susie Cruzy. But I'm like, you got to help me. You know, I need this phone call. I need this. I need help. When everybody else was smoking or watching Jerry Springer on the TV on a break, I was in the parking lot on voice comm. You know, I mean, I worked. And I thought, if, you know, Dave Ramsey says, if you will do for 5 years what nobody else will do, you will have what nobody else will have. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give it 5 years. And I don't regret it at all.
Just having that call with everybody, you know, it's funny that you said that. I put a post up, you know, and it was, if we just decide that we're not going to quit, you know, make that decision that you're never going to quit. So like you said, because you were 4 years into it as a customer, you know, and loving the product, what did your DMO look like when you did decide to do that? When you did decide?
Well, I had to start.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I was working 50 hours a week when I started, and doing a master's and raising 3 kids. So I did the 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. It was just all I could do. And as my business started growing, I think one of the biggest things that my team taught me is to plug people into the system and let the system feed your team, because you can't feed everybody. You just can't do it. And so I did that from the beginning. And so when I wasn't there, they knew where to go. And then I just did a ton of events consistently. It didn't matter what was happening in my life, I was doing events. So
it sounds like you had a lot of non-negotiables for yourself. Like you said, you know, and the system that you followed, that you said was the 2 by 2 by 2, was it plugging into, I mean, we didn't have the Freedom Revolution back then. I think, you know, it sounds like what you plugged into, as I plugged into, was doing 3-way calls, being on these events, as well as being at live events. Is that what the system is? I mean, I know for me, it's always just been keep it really simple. Like you said, because life is busy for people and they need simplicity for it. What was that for you when you say plug into the system?
3-way calls, definitely. That was, I did thousands, and I was just like, it was so awkward in the beginning, and yet now I absolutely love them. I worked on my memory jogger every week, carried a clipboard, tried to do what we call the 5-1, 5 customer. I mean, nothing. I did everything Wendy Campbell said to do. I was on every Campbell team call Monday night. I mean, I was on Carrie Daigle's call. If it was there, I was on it. I listened to every CD. If somebody said to read a book, I read it. I had to change my mindset from an employee mindset to an entrepreneur mindset. And that was the hardest thing I had to do, because one of the first books I read was The Secrets of the Six-Figure Woman. And I realized after I read that book, the only thing different between me and the millionaires was right between my ears. It was just the way I thought.
So what do you think the 3 things were that you had to shift to go from that employee mindset to that entrepreneur mindset? What do you feel that it was for you?
The first thing was that I felt like, as a Christian woman, I was supposed to be content with what I had and not want more. And I had to realize that if I was a good steward of what I was given, God would bless me with more so that I could give more. So that was the first thing. The second thing was that it's the people you hang around with. You know, if I wanted to be successful, I needed to follow successful people. So at every event, when the doctor would be at the front of the room talking to people, I would just be standing there listening. I just listened. Just became the student. And then probably the third thing was that I worked hard. I blocked my calendar. I designed my days. In the beginning, there was very little play. I mean, I was never able to go to the gym without a beeper. I was just wasn't a lot of fun. But as my business grew, I was able to go 4 days a week, 3 days a week, and then eventually walk away. But I had a lot of support from my upline and my sidelines. And yeah, those 3-way calls were rock solid. And I love memory jogger next step training. I love talking to people about who are you thinking about, how do we reach out and bless them? That's my favorite thing to do. So
I love that. I love that. And like you said, like a memory jogger might be somebody just sending birthday cards on Facebook. That might be a memory. I know today my friend posted, it was her birthday today, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't reached out to her in so long, and I just put together a package for her. So a memory jogger shows up lots of different ways. So that but I love that you carried a clipboard, because you're so used to carrying a clipboard. I think in the ER. I see you as Doogie Howser carrying your clipboard around with it. But Leanne, so I think that if everybody is listening, we always say concepts or constant, techniques vary with regards to that. And it sounds, for you have big vision of how you want to give back, how you want to, serve. And so you're just, like you said, like you're getting back out there, especially with regards to events. You asked me, am I going to, about conference? We know that events are where leaders are born, whether it's an online event like this or a live event, this is where leaders are born. So I want to, what would be your assignment to give everybody right now? Is there an assignment?
Well, I would say, yeah, just, imagine that you invested $50,000 in this business and that it could pay you quadruple of your investment. How would you treat your business? I think just because it's free for the summer or $52 or whatever it is, we have a hobby mentality. Well, we'll have a hobby paycheck. So what would it look like if you'd spent $50,000 to dive in and build this? Like if you'd gone out and bought a franchise, you would give it your all, 110%. You would leave no bush unturned. And I love what you said at the beginning that a lot of people maybe did not hear, is that 98% of people will be tourists, 2% will be guides. Well, we always know that it's, the women that make six-figure incomes are 2% of the population. And not everybody's meant to do that. And that's okay. But my team is mainly made up of people wanting to just pay their house payment, and that's perfectly fine. So I would say, does your calendar reflect what your goals are? And if you're thinking about your business, that does not mean you're building your business. So you can't say I'm working my business 10 hours a week if you're thinking about it 8 and not working it, So I'm just big on calendar blocking, and that's how I design my week and my days. I color code and I tell my time where to go. Dave Ramsey says, if you don't give every dollar and cent a job or a category, it'll run away. You have to tell it where to go. Time is the same way. What I would say in my closing remarks is, this is not a dress rehearsal. This is what we got today. This opportunity, this next person you talk to, this next phone call, don't waste it.
Yep. I love that. We were at the event that we just did with Eric. He said, what if, like you said, like the average business, and when someone starts, the average business is $55,000 to start a business. He said, what if you actually took that money and put $55,000, because he asked how much it started, start our business, and we said $52, and it's for the summer with the blitz. Is that he said, what if you took $55,000 and put it into a bank account and you weren't allowed to touch it until you got that money back in your business? Would you work your business? Right. So I love that. You're like me. I love time blocking. Same thing. I love I love that quote I forgot you just said about time and the money, and putting your money, everything, assigning it to something. I love that. So,
well, and my vision board work was really, really important to me. I'm big, putting it on and moving it as it happens, kinesthetic. And so, if you can't see it, you can't achieve it, so you got to be able to see it.
Well, I adore you. Is there anybody with a final question? I have to jump out, but is there anybody with a final question for Leanne? I hope we can do more together, Leanne. I'd love if we can get together and do some calls together. I love a lot of your team. I know a lot of your people. I love your people. They're good people, big hearts, and all about contribution. Some of them reached out to me when we were doing the blessing backpacks, and that's actually a reason why I really wanted to have you on the call, because you are all about service and contribution. So I just want you to know your team is a reflection of you, and just big hearts. So does anybody have any final questions for Glenn, or for he's at work, or Susan? Yep. Anybody?
Yeah, I do, Lauren. Leanne, thanks so much for hopping on this call. And I just have to tell you that you've been in my ear. I've been in the business 8 years now. Your testimony on migraines, I have shared so many times. So thank you for that boxer. That has, it's just something I always keep in the back of my mind. What do you do? What are you doing now to keep yourself inspired?
Well, I mean, you've always got to have something positive in your ear. So I always listen to health stuff because that's what keeps me educated and keeps me passionate about what I'm doing. But I'm leading my team in the Blitz, and I mean, I'm traveling and doing events. I mean, it's not any different today than it was in the beginning. I think the biggest high in this business is helping other people reach their goals. And I never, ever get tired of bringing new people on and helping people hit their goals. And so I'm not doing anything different today than I've always been doing. I don't think, Glenn, am I? It might be better from an outsider's point of view.
And I think that's the important thing. Like, it's the same thing, like you said, like the principles are the same, right? It's like you just have more quality problems. You still have problems, right? But just more quality quality problems, if you would, right?
Yeah.
Helping somebody else get there. Like you're thinking of like, who's going to be that next NMD? Who's going to?
Well, we froze. Glenn, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, I think the main thing that she's done from the business standpoint is that she's very intentional. You know, she, like she says, she designs her life. In order to do that, you have to tell your time where you're going to go, what you're going to spend it on. And she does that better than anyone that I know. And like I said earlier, you know, this is in her heart. So when Juice Plus gets from your mind to your heart, that's when you start succeeding in this business, because she's not in this for the money. She doesn't even really know what her paycheck is if you had to ask her. But you know, it's in her heart. It's her passion to help others. So
yeah. Does that answer your question, Amanda?
It does. Is there any event that your team's doing right now that you're just really having fun with? I mean,
well, we love doing NMD roundtables. So we'll have like an MC. So Aaron, who's on our call tonight, was our MC, and I had, you know, we had a group of NMDs and just sharing our stories. We love doing those kind of events. I just had a wine and wellness here Friday night with 28 people.
oh my goodness.
We do cooking workshops. I mean, you name it. Our team's gotten really creative with fun events.
Yeah. And is the NMD one online, like your Zoom one?
No, it's actually in person. So where do you live?
I live in Denver.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're getting out in person again.
Yeah. No, we are too, for sure.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Lauren had to, I think her internet connection fails. Is there anyone else that had a question before we wrap it up? Good. Okay. Well, thank you, Leanne, for
Thanks for
speaker tonight. I love hearing from people that are just so, again, heart-centered, and you just reinvigorated me after 8 years. So thank you for that. And we will be sure to get you guys the recording if you want to share it with anyone else. So thanks.